Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
And I'm John Thomas. If it's haunted, cursed, or just plain weird, I'm into it. From paranormal encounters to horror movie deep dives, urban legends, cryptids, count me in.
I'm BJ Sewura, an aspiring paranormal musician who plays live for the dead because the living just doesn't want to hear me.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our twisted kitties out there? In today's episode, we'll be venturing into the abbey, lamenting the configuration, and diving into the darkest party. Joining us for the special episode of Hell on Earth is special returning guest, Nazeeh Tarsha. I now present to you, D is for Demons.
Woo! Woo!
Just so you know, when I delivered the intro, I am totally envisioning and trying to harness the Crypt Keeper vibe. I can't do his voice, but I try to pull in the funness. Now, I would like for tonight, since we all know I love my demons, so this episode is just super fun already, exciting for me. I'd like for us to just go chronologically. Are you down with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when these movies were released, because I feel like starting with the granddaddy of them all, Hellraiser, 1987, is a really good place to jump into, just because I feel like Hellraiser is the movie that really kicked off the angry, mean, torturous demons.
Yeah, no, I'm totally down with that.
So, Hellraiser. I am a big Hellraiser, Pinhead, Clive Barker fan, but I also understand, and I've prefaced this, that the 1987 Hellraiser, if you didn't watch it back then, might be quite a bit to swallow. That's what she said. So, being Nazeeh, that you had not watched Hellraiser, and this is what we threw you into with demons, I want to know, like, what are your thoughts? And I will not be offended.
No. I legitimately love this one. So no offense needed.
Wonderful.
I think this one is the one where it legitimately felt like a philosophical entry into the world of horror. This sort of existentialism, the idea that an antagonist isn't necessarily this sort of force of evil. They just kind of exist. And, they say it themselves in the middle of the movie. Angels to some, demons to others. We provide pleasure, we provide pain. And so having this sort of antagonist, I kind of want to call them a secondary sort of antagonist, because it feels like Frank is the primary force within this first movie. They're kind of mentioned, forgotten about, and then reappear to remind you, oh wait, hold on, there's a whole other dimension going on with unexplained rules, a puzzle box, and sort of just things that we have not even scratched the surface of. So everything that I am saying is solely in regard to the first movie, because I have not seen the other ones. However, yeah, it was interesting kind of seeing just the way they positioned the Cenobites, and the entry into kind of body horror. It feels like this is the first movie that I watched where I had visceral reactions throughout, whether it was in the very beginning when Frank opens the puzzle box, becomes hooked and dismembered, and skin, face, organs splayed everywhere on hooks, on the floor, brought together. And then throughout it, whether it is the various killings that happened and the nature of just eating those bodies or sucking the life or blood out of them, and bringing it back to the introduction of the Cenobites themselves, where each of them are this just bizarre, body altered manifestations or beings. You know, you have the one where it's what was it like when he takes the glasses off and it's lips all over? Is that what it was, or is it just a eyeless? And the obviously Pinhead with all the pins sticking through, and the other one, I don't know the names of half of these. You have the one that has the giant sort of metal thing, a mabobber hanging out, and then and of course the giant ugly worm that hangs from the ceiling. So having all of these various things kind of introduced, and it felt like this was, in looking back from my lens, I can see the shift in the horror genre, and further exploring the idea of body horror. And, you know, if you look at today's stuff, obviously we have things such as the Saw series and Final Destination, and we have The Substance that recently had come out, and, you know, further exploration of this. And everything feels like it was, if not thanks to Hellraiser, it was at least in the very least a pivotal cornerstone in kind of paving that way in this genre. But yeah, no, it was great. Also, the aside from just the themes of the existence of beings that don't necessarily interfere, they just, if you summon them, they are here to provide you what you summon them for. Also, the theme of just human desire and temptation, and the exploration of what one will do in seeking of their desires, and how carnal they are, and how extreme they can be, and how they can be shifted. And when you look at characters like Kirsty, the sort of resisting of something that did not want anything to do with whatsoever. But yeah, that's my preliminary thing regarding my preliminary just assessment and analysis of this movie.
You know, I think it's really interesting what you brought up about like the pain and the, you know, this kind of idea of this carnal like pleasure, because for me, it's the person that opens the box determines what they're getting out of that experience. So for Frank, he in the movie is very similar to Frank in the book. And I know not everybody has read Hellbound Heart. And if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. Hellbound Heart is a novella, so it's not a full book. And that's what Hellraiser is based on, written by Clive Barker. And it takes, I would say, like 80% of the storyline and puts it into Hellraiser the movie. What they deviated from, I think, isn't that bad. It's not that unforgivable. I think it still keeps the heart of the story, the Hellbound heart of it all. Because both in book and in movie, Frank Cotton gets a puzzle box in his travels trying to find enhanced otherworldly pleasure, because what he has sought out on Earth, and this is in the book, which you only get so much in a movie to expand on, right? But like that idea is there. But in the book, they really give you more of what Frank is about. He is the most hedonistic, like human being that does deplorable things to try and just fulfill every kind of pleasure, dark, light, everything in between. And he buys a box where this guy claims like, hey, if you think you know pleasure, this is going to really open it for you. So I believe the movie stays true to this in the book, or from the book, is that he takes it to an attic and he solves the puzzle. Hook chains appear, tear him apart. Well, in the book, it's actually different. And I do want to give this to you guys for a moment. It might take a moment, but I think it's super important to know this context. is that in the book, he's actually been given instructions on how to solve the puzzle box. And there's actually rituals he has to do. So it's not just open the box. He actually has to get specific things to engage in this ritual to then open the box. And so he's really got to earn it and work for it. And once they arrive, the description of what happens when the Cenobites arrive is actually really interesting. I love the way they describe how the room changes, like how it begins to wade in and out, and you hear this bell off in the distance, and the bell gets louder as they're arriving. And it's really beautiful. Like I said, I obsess over the book. I love the movie, but I feel like the book, for being a small novella, is just phenomenal. And so we are introduced to this idea that it's not just pure torture, right? Like in the movie, it's puzzle opens and the hooks get them and they tear them apart. And that's it. But in the actual book, that's not really, like, they come into his reality. They slowly kind of fade into his reality. And there's this like halfway world where they're in, and it's presumed the attic, gets kind of blurred into that world. And they explain to him that what they're going to do is essentially going to, through extreme pain, transcend him into something much more. So it's not even so much as, hey, carnal desires, as through your exquisite pain, we're going to elevate you. We're going to enlighten you. And how you exist as a human, you're not even going to be able to fathom, and you're not going to be able to come back from. And what's funny is in the book, he's trying to find a way to escape because it's so intense and like the time doesn't exist. So it's just this intense torture. Now, the reason I bring all that up, including the torture part, and this, what they kind of didn't say, Pinhead hints at it in the movie, but what they didn't say that really is kind of, I don't know, elaborated on is not necessarily the word, but they really do they take care to make sure you understand, is that this isn't just like BDSM torture. That their idea is that through extreme pain is how you get extreme pleasure, but it's not pleasure for the sake of your body, it's pleasure for the sake of transcendence. And that's fucked up, but I like it. And what I realized when I reread Hellbound Heart recently is, one, how much I fucking love the book. Again, read it. But also that reminds me of another concept that was introduced 20 years later, if I can math. I think that's the right math. Or 19 years later in Martyrs, which is also a torture film.
Yes.
And it's the idea that through extreme torture, you achieve transcendence into almost like a sainthood, because you fully get tortured out of your body and your mind to this point of just transcendence and enlightenment. And I'm like, is that where they got that from?
Feels like it, right?
Someone was reading Hellbound Heart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of these various forms of media. They build, they elaborate, they create their own worlds, and it's one thing that I'm going to reference in the other movies as well is the various things that some of these feels like they borrowed from each other. Even you can kind of pin this sort of stuff. Get it?
Pin it to your head.
Hey.
Hey. No, I'm with you. And I think that there were changes they made from the book to the movie. And again, I'm not sure why they chose those changes, but I can kind of guess. Because in the book, Christy is not as innocent as she's portrayed to be in the movie. In the movie, she's Larry's daughter, right? And she's got evil, wicked stepmother Julia, who's like secretly in love with Frank because Julia is also depraved to an extent and wants that extreme pain. What you don't get is the context, which is in Hellbound Heart. Christy's actually not related to Larry. And in fact, there is no Larry. Or I'm sorry, Larry. No, yeah, because it's Frank's brother, Rory, who Julia is married to. And Christy's actually just like this neighborhood friend who's in love with Rory. So she's constantly making herself intrusive and invasive in this relationship.
Oh.
Not quite a protagonist, right? She's still not bad, but she's definitely like looking for that chance to get
Right.
Rory. And Julia has history with Frank because Frank is so depraved. I guess in the book they, imply that he just had his way with Julia the night before their wedding, her wedding to Rory, but like treated her so vile, but she can't forget it. She thinks like she's in love with him because she likes to be treated that way. So they're peas in a pod. But yeah, again, minor changes that I think maybe aren't that big of a deal. But part of me wonders if they did that just so Kirsty was more of a protagonist, more of a solid protagonist versus look at this little homewrecker.
Right, right. I mean that is the thing too, right? Trying to create the sympathetic sort of self-insert in a way when relating your idea or creation to an audience, because there is that sort of, oh, they need to be able to see themselves in this. If we just made everyone a shit person, then you don't root for anyone. And you're just like, oh, okay, let's just watch a hour and a half, 2 hour thing of just weird torture stuff and some philosophical, existential, poetic shit. But yeah, no, it was. Yeah, no. The thing I really liked is how the world that they built felt so, despite not showing us too much of it, left so much to the imagination that it left you wanting more. And this is one of those franchises where, now granted, I know there's like 9 films or something like that. I don't know if all of them are necessary. I don't know how people feel about them and whatnot, but the way that this first movie has set itself up, it's one where I, as an audience member, I want to dig into this. This is one of those where I am going to actively pursue watching the next ones because I want to see what exactly is behind the veil. I want to go back into this world and see what it is that they had in mind and vision created and whatnot. And it's not like some other movies where it's like, okay, we don't need a sequel, or this first one or the first two felt perfect and now we're just milking a series. Now again, I don't know if they did that with this, but in the very least it did set itself up for a sort of universe that I can see just elaborated on.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this movie, but admittedly, this is probably the first horror movie I ever saw when I was 10. So
Oh
probably not the
no.
first movie you should watch.
No.
Uh yeah, yeah. So the things that stick out for me, as you know, that have always stuck out for me for this, I mean, obviously as an adult, the story and all of the things, right? But as a kid, the things that stick out is a skinless Frank in the attic. But prior to him, like one of the coolest scenes, and they did this a lot in the 80s, where these practical effects for the reanimation sequence in the film is so good. Like it was so like, oh, just gooey and gory and just like wow. Like it's like as a kid I was like, how the hell did they do that? You know, and I loved it. I was, and that kind of hooked me into horror, you
But
know. And so yeah, but and then I look over at my brother who's like 7 years older than me. I'm like, what the hell are we watching? But I love it, and can you please show me the next thing, you know? But yeah, the reanimation scene, I think that is good because I think other movies did that, where I think as a filmmaker, um didn't they, is it like a reverse kind of thing? They like shot it in reverse, or they played it back in reverse, whereas because it's hard to create that stuff, it's easier to like
right,
take it
right, right.
away,
I
right?
have no idea,
Than to
but I
create it out
believe
of
that. Yeah.
nothing. I think that's what they did. Because I know that Critters did the same thing when they were, you know, eliminating the face and bringing it back again. It's just kind of shot in reverse. They did it with Christine with the car. But yes, the visuals, the music, my God, we have to
Yes.
mention the music. For me, it is a like just the score, right? It is something that I listen to pretty regularly, for whatever reason. And yeah, it just keeps me coming back and having these conversations. You guys just bring up more and more that I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. And there's so much more to it than you first see. And I think that's the draw.
Right.
I would continue watching the next few, Nazeeh, because I think they are pretty compelling. You get more of like the Tower of Souls, and you get more background on Pinhead, which I love, because you start to understand what they set up in the first one. There's actually rules to the Cenobite world that they have to follow, and you get more of those rules. So you start to understand the universe better. Of it's not just this hellish chaos, right? Like these demons actually follow a structure, and there's actually a crazy organization to it. And you also learn more about like Pinhead himself, that he, as you figure out with the other Cenobites, was also created and used to be human, and there's something in him, the humanity in him, that checks him. So you get, in one of the movies, you get this whole, what happens if you take the humanity out of the Cenobite? And that's pretty fucking brutal. I mean, you want to talk about gore and torture and body horror, like you get it in spades in that one. But
Gotcha.
but it's not just for the sake of torture. It really does serve a purpose, and it's epic. And like BJ said, the practical effects on that, it is visceral, and you're like, oh, but you can't look away. And I really enjoy what they do with the rules, and they stick with the rules when you follow the movies along through the progression. Doug Bradley, phenomenal casting. I couldn't see anybody else's Pinhead, other than if you create a new one, which we got in Hellraiser Bloodlines with a female Pinhead known as the Priest. And so outside of that, though, that's not really Pinhead. What I think is funny is that because they couldn't get the pens to work visually, you can't see the pens. They use nails in his mask. So he's Pinhead, but he's got nails. But it works, right? Like, you're not questioning it. It absolutely works. And I will say, fun little fact for people who haven't watched, and I don't want to give too much away, but that struggle that Pinhead has with his humanity and his demon fighting constantly within him kind of makes you wonder if the nails are a physical manifestation of the torture going on in his head. Because if you look at the Cenobites, a lot of them, their physical representation actually is an indication of how they died, or what their bad habit was or vice that led them into the Cenobite world. So
Interesting. I'll keep that in mind.
yeah, so rewatch the first one and try and figure out, what did each one of those do?
Yeah.
That's what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun.
Yeah.
How much when the guy bought it, it looked like it was a couple $1,000s. Like, how much do you think the box costs?
Your soul.
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think the money matters. It's all about the individual. And this is happening in the Middle East. We got bartering, brother.
Yeah, and he bought it in the movie, but I believe in the book he actually pursues the Le Marchand configuration. But I think the idea is that it was handed off to him with the rules. So I feel like the box almost chooses you. Like, ooh, you're depraved. You're definitely built for this.
Hard to show
in
that
a movie.
In a
yeah, so it's just
sequence.
like, just buy it. Just have him buy it. Yeah, but I think that movie is a phenomenal powerhouse and kind of a master of horror that paves the way for the rest of the movies we're going to talk about.
Yeah. And I do want to note the actress for Julia as well in the movie. It's interesting seeing the shift from, not to say that she was innocent or anything in the beginning, just she seemed like sort of forlorn, lost, seeking just any semblance of happiness. And then with Frank, with her which is her desire, just being absorbed into becoming a killer and bringing these bodies, and just seeing even like when toward the end, when she has that sort of wry sort of smile when Larry talks with Christy, and it's like, oh no, it's okay, we took care of Frank, and then she like stifles her smile in the background, and it's like, oh, you've come to the dark side, you've become like an entirely different person now.
And what's interesting in the book, it's not different. She actually like does not like her husband. I'm assuming she did at some point, but like when the book starts, because you're given the perspective of each character. So you get to see and experience their emotions and what they're doing and what they're engaging in throughout each person. Frank, Rory. Actually, I don't think they really dive into Rory. It's more Frank, Julia, Kirsty. And you realize really quickly Julia is not a nice person. She just hides it very well. She's very on par with Frank. But
Got you.
John, how do you feel about Hellraiser?
Well, I mean, I know we talked about it way, 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 way back, and I didn't like it much then. But watching it again, it grew on me, and you know me, I'm all about torture, so hey, I like that.
He likes pain.
Yes, and I agree with BJ. I mean, the music, of course, amazing, and all the visuals are just, yeah. Definitely glad I watched it again. So
It's good fun.
Yeah. For me, despite this one being the oldest of the ones that we have watched, and also one of the oldest of all of the films that I have watched, I think this one is absolutely higher up on my personal list, just from I think from all aspects, truly, whether it's just an appreciation for what it's set forward in terms of the horror genre, and also just the concepts that it itself has brought forth into sort of the philosophical aspect of the horror genre. The fact that it doesn't have to be just nonstop dread. It doesn't have to be this mix of horror comedy, which we're going to get into. It can be this sort of higher arts sort of project that helps evoke, thoughts and has you thinking about the world in a different way. And, just looking if you like pleasure and pain.
Well, and to that point, I think that what it does very well is it shows that horror can be sexy in the 80s in a way that isn't just naked, big-breasted women running through the woods and people having a bunch of sex. This movie is not about that, and yet this is probably one of the sexiest horror movies that exists because it takes a subtext of the BDSM culture and weaves it in a way where I think that anybody that watches this for a moment checks themselves and says, huh, this should be fucked up. And it is. But there's also something that just kind of intrigues me. I think it forces the viewers to really analyze themselves a bit too, and how they receive it and why they're receiving it that way. And I think that Clive is a fucking genius for being able to accomplish that in such a gory, dark film.
Yeah, no, it's I think to sum it up for me, it evokes a sense of beauty that other films don't necessarily have in terms of evoking those kinds of feelings and introspective thoughts.
Well, wonderful. All right. So then we're going to take a trip a year forward and jump into Night of the Demons.
Night of the Demons.
Let's go to Angela's party.
Let's go to Angela's party. So this one, it felt, how do I phrase this?
Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
It's lower on my list. It's lower on my list, personally. I thought it was enjoyable. This is one of those where if I was flipping through channels and it happened to be on, I wouldn't mind leaving it, but I wouldn't seek watching this movie again. This one felt a little more that one felt dated, weirdly enough. It feels very much so a product of its time, with the sort of just uh, teenagers, sex, dealing with the satanic panic and going into this haunted house, and each one of them are going to die one by one because they're all sinners of some sorts, and they're dealing with things that they shouldn't be dealing with. But that being said, it was fun, and it had a lot of whimsical and fun moments throughout. It had a few zingers. Actually, it had a lot of zingers, and to the point where I was like, okay, this is a little much for me. I know that in a way this was probably more of a parody on everything going on. It wasn't necessarily that it was taking itself seriously and its own creation, that it was probably poking fun and jabbing at other movies and films that came before it. But that being said, there was still a little too much for me in terms of, just like I said, the amount of just zingers and just nonstop 80s bully shenanigans, and hey man, let's go ahead and come on, what are you, chicken? Like these little tiny things. It was very much, it reminded me of like when I watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and you have like the two bullies, I forget their names, but it was just like that half the time for me. It was a kind of nostalgia trip in a way. But
Bulk and Skull, that's who it was.
Oh, yes. Stooge absolutely is just 100% exactly that. That all being said, in terms of the content matter of the film, where these kids are having a party, it's Halloween, they go to this, it's not even just a haunted house. This is a funeral home or a crematorium, and it's the Native Americans are brought in once again to let us know that land is not sacred. Stay away. Do not mess with the forces unseen. And I thought it was interesting seeing this depiction of demons, in which one demon possesses a person, and then through these sort of like mouth-to-mouth physical exchanges, kind of multiplied in a way. Like it didn't feel like it was just like, oh, this place has 20 different demons and they're all just possessing each person one by one. This felt just like a weird multiplicative, like mitosis sort of rule that I've never experienced in in these sorts of films before, to the point where once the demons started, or I guess demon started possessing multiple bodies, it kind of felt reminiscent of a sort of zombie film in a way, because you have these, and I think I want to take away the word zombie, and I want to put it more like of a horde film. I think that's what I like to categorize these as, because you can have vampire films where it is a horde and you're being chased and whatnot. And so having this kind of just be this chase in the night, and it's not just a singular demon. It's not a team of demons. It's just this force possessing multiple folks and coming in and just wreaking its havoc on Halloween, the one night that it can. Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. I can see why it's a cult classic, and I do have an appreciation for it. It's definitely just not one that my personal favorite.
The reason I chose this one was completely intentional. One, it is part of the cult classic canon of demon films, because, again, up until this point, there aren't a lot of demon films in the horror world. Now, there are possession-type films, but actual just pure demons running amok, not a thing. So I chose this one specifically as a contrast to Hellraiser, because they're only a year apart from each other. But this one plays by the rules of horror, whereas Hellraiser did not. So this one plays by the rule of the final girl. You have your innocent little virginal, oh my God, I would never. of course she fucking lives. And it's no surprise she's dressed like Alice, right? Alice in Demon Wonderland.
Right.
And it also kind of plays into the horror tropes that existed at that time in terms of like boundaries of demonic possession to an extent, like this old mortuary, and like you said, the Native American land and all the bad things that happen, and these bad teenagers getting drunk and having sex. And of course, they're all dead and possessed. However, there are some gems in this. And one of the first ones I do want to highlight is the cinematic gem. The choice to do an entire scene focused on broken mirror shards. So they are delivering their lines and they're all standing over this broken mirror. And it takes a moment to realize we're watching that entire thing through the shards.
Yeah.
Like that's back in the 80s. That's, artistic cinematic shots where you're going completely artistic in that way. That wasn't as common. Were there creative shots? Absolutely. But something like that, where you're playing with the mirror and the fact that it's broken and now we're looking at the shards of them, it's fun, right? It's a fun thing. The dance Angela does
Yes.
to
Yes. That was absolute. I did love that
Yes.
scene a lot.
yeah,
goth
her
dance.
goth dance to the Bauhaus song. It's just like, what in the world? Like, you think that's it completely absurd, and yet it worked. It fit, right? Everything's super campy up until this point, but there's just something dark and compelling in that moment that you can't look away. It's like, go, Angela, go. Get your demon dance on. And I love Sal's contrast as he's watching her completely disturbed. And he's like, these girls are fucking weird. And he's like, something's wrong with her. I gotta go. And he does say that. Watch out for her. There's something weird going on with her. But that dance was just magnificent. It was captivating. And it's like, wow, this is cool. That in and of itself. There were moments in there that I do feel, and I don't know who did it, the director or the screenwriter or whoever, but there are moments in there that there's real occult stuff being kind of subtly laced in under the absurdity. The idea that they are doing mirror magic to, like, they're all engaging in mirror magic to host a seance. That's not a seance. That's mirror
Mhm.
magic.
Mhm.
And we've had guests talk to us about that and how dangerous that is. And they're just like, let's do it. And yeah, I don't know. I could go on about the like little subtext where I'm like, ooh, that was smart. Oh, that was interesting. Now, I was also, as a kid, I watched this very young. I was traumatized by like the lipstick in the nipple scene.
Oh my God. I hated that so much. So much to the point where I did actually like write this in my notes. Cause it's like, okay, it's the 80s. We have the, the ass shots and we have the sort of provocative imagery, and it's like,
Although
okay,
none of them had
fine.
asses.
And then hey, that was an 80s ass. we gotta again appreciate the time for what it was. It's a product of that.
Except Angela, when she did her dance, I'm like, well, you at least have something there. But like the other one where you spent like 5 minutes at the beginning looking at her ass
Yeah.
as she's bent over in the store, I'm like, dude, there's nothing there.
Yep. But
That's how you shoplift in the 80s.
That's how you shoplift. You just show your chonies.
but yeah, just when the lipstick scene was happening, and I'm like, okay, we're just using this to kind of just look at her boobs, and we're doing the thing again. But then
It's gratuitous 80s.
But then she put it in, and I was like, oh yeah, bleh. I hate that. This little things.
But
Imagine
you
as
never,
a
but you never
female
saw that
watching
before.
that, being like, what the
Oof.
fuck? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Yes, as a female, absolutely. I got breasts too. I'm just saying,
You got moves.
I got moobs.
But this is again where like they're trying to be sexy. They're showing you ass. They're showing you big boobs. They're showing you full female frontal shots. You're getting sex. You're getting all this stuff. And this film is not quite sexy. The sexiest thing in this film is Angela's dance. And
Yeah.
so that's where it's just like comparing that to Hellraiser, right? Where they don't show you sex. They don't show you like, I mean, you get gratuitous stuff,
No.
but nothing like that. They're not showing you any of that. And yet it is still so fucking sexy. It's like, I feel like Hellraiser really spun the idea of what horror could be on its head, especially when it came to these kind of films like Demonic and Creature, whereas Night of the Demons was like, well, let's play in our safe zone. We're still going to have startling scenes like what's something we haven't seen before. Ooh, let's put lipstick in our nipple. Like, what? What? Who fucking thought of that? What were they on when they wrote that?
No, legitimately.
Right. Yes. Also, things you haven't seen before. Sex in a coffin, right? And also murder in a coffin. Like, it's like two of the same, right after the other, one right after the other, which is like, oh my God, that's a great idea. I bet that's fun. Oh no,
Oh
it didn't
no.
work. Now they're dead.
Although there's not much work to be done, right? Because they're already in the coffin. So
They're already in the coffin.
That's one way to start a murder business.
efficiency, okay? It's the efficient mortuary.
Truly.
The one thing that, like, when I was watching it, because I've seen this a bunch of times, but like the exposition, right? Like when they're like explaining everything on the way and as they're going in and everything, it's like, oh God, like
It's typical 80s, man.
right. It's like you need to tell everybody exactly what's going on, and this is this, and it's like, okay, let's get through that and get to the fun part.
All I wanted to
Right.
say is I hated to love Sal, but I loved Sal. His expression and like just overall gung ho. I was so pissed. I've seen it before, but every time I see him die, just spoiler alert. But guys, if you haven't seen this was 88 year whatever. But like when he falls off the roof and gets impaled and Angela's still alive, I'm like, fuck you, Angela.
Yeah.
Sal was the one you want to root for, even though he's such a shit.
Well, that's the funny thing about a lot of these movies when they originally portray somebody who's like a bad guy, and don't get me wrong, still is a bad guy. Doesn't take away from the things that he's done or the way he acts and whatnot. But I feel like there's a sort of tendency to show you that while a bad guy on the outside, there is still like good in their heart and they are a good person. And the fact that he kind of normalizes as the movie goes on, where he becomes wary of things going on and he says, hey, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm sorry, but I'm not screwing with this. Like, and then when juxtaposed with Jay, who is originally introduced as the kind boyfriend and the love interest, and then turns out, surprise, surprise, he's just a horny little fuck who is looking to get his dick wet. And it's like, okay, fine, yep, fuck you, die. We don't we don't like you. Get out of here.
You die.
Now, you mentioned how up until this point there weren't that many demon-related films and whatnot. I actually had written this. There was, when they're in the house and they're talking about how it's haunted, and Angela says the house isn't haunted, it's possessed. Here's a differentiation of what this means. Is that something? Is this kind of like one of the first times a movie has tried to differentiate between like a haunting versus a possession, spirits versus demons, and that sort of a thing?
I don't recall it being as explicitly relayed in other films. I think it's just assumed that you should just know that. But that's again kind of what I was saying about them sliding subtle things in. That's one of the things that I do think was smart, that they're able to still put some of the serious demon lore in there. That was one of them. Like, hey, this isn't ghosts, this is demons, and here's the difference. And like the idea of a past life seance. I mean, past lives, that's more of a new age metaphysical thing, and yet it was being referenced back then by Kim. And, it's just like, again, those things where it's like someone in that writer's room knew about the occult because they're like, well, we got to make it still a little bit realistic in these ways.
Yeah, because you didn't hear those conversations until like 2000, like recently, right? People aren't active, and yeah, they mention it in the movie. Yeah, she's weird and all of this kind of stuff, and I guess that's what it is. But yeah, it's too real, right? It's not. It doesn't feel like they're like, hey, let's throw something at the dartboard and make a story up out of it, right?
Someone knew
Like it's
something.
based.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
But I will say though, is although Angela wanted to play a party game and she's like, let's do a seance, it was actually Kim who came up with the past life seance and doing that through the mirror. It wasn't Angela. So just something to throw out there.
Yeah. I disliked, and this is like just a minor thing, and it happens in half of these movies. And not Angela. Oh my God, what's her name? Why am I forgetting her name? Main girl.
Which one? Judy.
Judy, thank you. She's running the wall, going up the barbed wire. Roger's already up and over and just grab my hand and whatnot, and he falls. Those demons, those possessed bodies.
More like zombies.
Yes. As they're like sitting there pulling at her, I was like, come on, you absolutely have her dead to rights. Roger is like falling over. You could this always like just a minor peeve. I get it. We need to have the happy ending. Somebody needs to make it out, especially if it's the virgin innocent girl, like you said, the final girl, and give the sort of happily ever after. Don't have sex, y'all, or at least not before marriage.
It was nice to see Roger made it out alive, though, because typically
Yes.
the minorities don't make it to the end of the film in the
Yes.
80s. So the fact that he did, I'm like, hey, go preach a bush. Shimmy!
No, when he said, my dad's a preacher, I know better, I got prayers. No, I'm leaving.
Well, if you noticed, he wouldn't participate in the seance either. He had his back turned and was kind of like hovering near the fireplace. He's like, this ain't for me, which I appreciated. I want to ask you guys, I want to field this to you because I noticed this. And I think because we are way more into understanding like demon lore and the occult and stuff like that, rewatching this film, I noticed even though Suzanne is the first one to get possessed, and it's funny because she's like, narcissistic and like super into herself. So it's this idea of like, of course it went for her first. She wasn't the main demon. She was the first to be possessed, but she wasn't the main demon. Angela was. And so the question for me was, how did Angela become the main source of the demon when Suzanne was the first possessed and then partially passed it on to her, but stayed because Suzanne was like the second in command, right? Like her
Right.
visible transformation and continuation throughout the film. She definitely was kind of the second strongest demon, even though none of them could take Judy down. And part of me wondered, is it because Angela was the one that was facing the mirror and they were all trying to do her past life? So did that make her the focal point for the main demonic possession?
I personally think it might have to do with Angela being seemingly more in tune with the occult and having that sort of drive and that allure toward it, in the same way, with like I will get into the nun and whatnot, but in the same way that some folks have an affinity toward the divine, I wonder if the demonic also, picks up on that and is like, oh, you are the strongest vessel, you are the head honcho, the main person in charge, you're the one that I will thrive through, and the rest can be pawns that I can utilize. That's my kind of thinking on it.
I don't know. That's a tough one because it's also feels like it's almost like they were passing it off like it was a disease, right? Through the kiss and but I don't know. I don't know if it's just another demon that just kind of took, because it was it the same demon, because obviously she was still possessed, so it's just passing off more of the essence.
Well, it's something that, which is interesting because we've talked about this in other episodes, is can a demon possess more than one body at the same time? And in this film, I think that's exactly what it did because it is the same demon. And we only realize that because when it's released, we see it in the mirror, it's one demon. And then when it's released from the crematorium, it goes to Suzanne. She kisses part of it into Angela, but we know it's only part because she's still, lipstick in her boobies, tracing and killing and being demon. And so I do wonder if, it is one demon because then at the end, when the sun comes up, very vampire like, they all like hiss and then the demon's up in the sky and then it disappears. And it's still that one singular demon. So I do think it is one demon possessing Gaul, but it seems like the primary extension of that, like source of the demonic, is in Angela, and that's not where it started. So I kind of wonder why that primary source was in her. And I just, like I said, I don't know if it goes back to the mirror because she was the one that
Mm.
sat in the front and everybody else was around her. So it's kind of like the movie, right? We're seeing like a foreshadowing. She's the head of it. They're all little extensions behind her because she says, "Focus on me, focus on my past life."
It almost seemed to me that it was almost like the demon's there. It's in Suzanne, and it's almost like, ooh, I'm ready to have some fun. Like it was almost like slowly, like acting as Suzanne just for a minute, and then just going for it, right? Like it wasn't like in the very when she first gets like possessed, it wasn't like right away that it's like it was kind of like, let's separate everybody and then let's make this happen, and it was almost like a over time kind of thing. And I don't know if it mattered. um I think it was more just because I don't know, it would be, I feel like it was the demon was using Suzanne to make everybody, I guess, scared, but not as much as like it could have been in the beginning. It was more of like a slow burn, I would say.
I think the full possession took stages in each one of them because with Suzanne, she was herself. Then she went to the bathroom and then she eventually, like lipstick all over herself. And then she full demons out. And Angela does her sexy goth dance and then she full demons out. And we have, if you notice at the end, when they're all crowded around and they're all chasing them and going to get Judy off of the wall, some of them don't look demonic. They look deadish, but they don't look demonic. Sal doesn't look like a demon yet. The
Right.
guy in the scrubs, I forgot his name. He doesn't look
Is that
demonic yet.
Max? Was that his
Max,
name?
I think it's Max. Yeah. We never see Helen alive, by the way. She's just straight dead.
Yep.
Like, she didn't get to become a demon apparently, but like Sal, Jay, all of them, or not Jay, yeah, because Jay just doesn't have his eyes, but like Jay, Sal, Max, and Kim, they still look like they're deadish.
Yeah.
They're not even demonic yet. It's the full blown demons are Angela, Suzanne, and Stooge.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and they were the ones that got turned or possessed earlier on. So I think it might just be length of when it's in your body.
Right.
What do you think, Joan?
I don't know for sure. I honestly did not enjoy this movie. I felt like I wasted too much time. And I kept checking the clock. I'm like, is it done yet? Like, it did remind me a little bit of It Follows. So I kind of wonder if they kind of picked up some of that from this movie. Since, I mean, it was like having sex with that movie, passing along, whatever. But I don't know. Just a little thought.
I mean, these are the, grandpappies,
Yeah,
grandmammas of
exactly.
the grandfather and grandmother, because you have a male, or you have the Cenobites that are actually, I think, supposed to be sexless. But then you
Yes.
also have Angela.
Yeah.
So
Angela.
you have one cluster of demons versus another cluster of demons.
Yep.
I prefer the Cenobites.
I do too.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
But being that this one was a little bit more absurd, a little bit more comedic, that leads us to one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
1995, Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Night.
Yay.
You're welcome, Nazeeh.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
I know you'd never seen this movie.
Yeah, no. I mean, I very clearly have not seen near damn any movie, but I especially have not seen this movie. And this one easily ranks in my top 5 of all the ones that I've watched. It's my favorite one of this batch. I'm willing to tie it to Hellraiser depending on mood. If I want something more serious to watch that, if I want to enjoy a little more levity than this, but this one easily, I think, stands the test of time. I have zero negative things to say about this film. And that's not to say to anybody listening that this is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece that you will find every meaning and find all the subtext and whatever, but this is a fucking good movie. So, Billy Zane.
Billy fucking Zane.
Billy motherfucking Zane. Absolutely just carried this movie on his back. He is a tour de force, just showing you that a horror film and a demon film can both have the thrill of the chase with some of the horror, but including in it sexy, whimsy, fun, and just a full-on ridiculously over-exaggerated but somehow still very believable performance. So when we're introduced to the characters, we have Breaker, who is... It's Breaker, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. Breaker is on this chase. You see this man with a stoic face. He looks disheveled. He looks like he's the bad guy, if I'm being honest. You're like, what did you do that you're on the run? You're on the chase. And you look at Billy Zane being shown with his cowboy hat and just sexy ass motherfucker going through, and you're like, okay, surely you're the good guy, you're the bad guy. You just tried stealing a car and got caught by this kid who told his parents, hey, your car is trying to get, some guy is trying to steal your car. So in the very beginning, this sort of like, okay, I think I know what's happening. And then everything gets turned around once you finally learn, when the sheriffs are taking the two to the or trying to take the two to the compound, that, oh no, Breaker is actually a good guy, and that Billy Zane, also known as the Collector, he's actually a demon who is in search of this key in order to bring on darkness within the world/universe. And the introduction into him being a demon, with him just punching through that sheriff or that officer's face, where he's like, we're going to find out who you are. And he's like, well, why wait?
I know, he's like, he warned you, you don't know who you're messing with. And they're like, oh, we'll find out. Why wait? Whoosh.
Why wait? Let's get this show on the road. And then from then on, it just becomes this very fun cat and mouse sort of game where the protagonists are all hunkered inside of a hotel, no way out, have to survive the night. Classic theme. How are you going to do it? Make it till dawn. And interlaced throughout, Billy just coming in with all of these just like, I know I use the word whimsical a lot in my day-to-day life, but Billy Zane in this role truly encapsulates the very word, when he gets pissed off and throws the cowboy hat and says, you know, this ho-dunk po-dunk cowboy bullshit.
My favorite line of the whole movie. I love it. I actually sent Ashley a gif.
And just that fucking dance.
Yeah.
That dance, that being pissed off, but like doing it in a way where it's like, I'm showing you the caricature that I see of you guys when I'm
Yeah.
looking at you, you fucking humans, you pieces of I hate you guys. Uh,
I just love that. It's like, because it's so delivered so quickly too. He's all, fuck this cowboy shit. You fucking ho dunk, po dunk. Well, then they're motherfuckers. And it's like, and then he's like, all you had to do was give me the key. And it's like, oh my God, I love this so much.
yeah, it is truly, it's so fun. And the reason I think this performance works as well as it does is Billy, this is one of those instances where I don't know that I could see another actor doing this. I know that there exists another actor that could, but the way he delivers this performance of this sort of just charismatic demon who's having a blast, he shows up as like a Miami looking DJ bartender to give Willie a drink filled with all these or not filled with these, but in a room filled with all these beautiful half naked women, or being seductively whispered into oh my God, what's her name? Is it Cordelia?
Oh, you're talking about when he's in the room with Cordelia? Yeah.
Yeah. He like it's not just one note. He doesn't only just bring this sort of charismatic thing. He does bring the sexiness to show you that yes, a demon can just whisper into your ear and show you and tell you what you want to hear and bring you on over. And yeah, this constant just going through the list of every single person, trying to lure them in so that he can get to Breaker, get the key, and just accomplish what it is that he wants to accomplish, showing that, yes, some of them you can have absolute fun. Roach, when he pulls the piece of sponge out of his mouth and it just goes, here you go. But yeah, this was a very, very, very fun film, while still also tackling the themes of religion, of sacrifice, of this sort of eternal holy battle between God, demons, and all descendants forward. And it's not something that I would necessarily expect from the Crypt Keeper. But I'd like to hear your thoughts and
I honestly love their take on demons because, we see demons as these scary creature monster things, right? In Hellraiser, they're these torturous, kind of unfeeling, monotone, but still terrifying creatures. Night of the Demons, it's possessing people, and they're still really terrifying. And then you get Billy fucking Zane. And like you said, he's charismatic. In his acting, he is so subtle in some of the stuff he does. Kind of like when Breaker's gonna, he's holding Geraldine hostage and he's like, I'll kill her, I'll do it. And Billy Zane's like, guys, I know this guy. He absolutely will not. And he's like calling him out. And what I love about this is that his character isn't, like you said, just charismatic or just scary or just any of that. He is calculating in the way that it's the devil, it's the devil that can seduce you or get to your vulnerabilities. With Willie, he's like, here's your alcohol. With the little boy, Danny, he's getting to him through his comic book. He doesn't even have to talk to him. He possesses him through his comic book. And like you said with Cordelia, he's sweet talking her through her pain. And Geraldine, he tries to entice her with like being rich and famous, even though that really isn't what her thing is. So
right.
He kind of called that one wrong. But each person, he knows exactly where their vulnerable spot is to potentially like get through that crack to get into them. So, and he's cunning. When Geraldine covers herself in Breaker's blood and is walking around and he snatches her up with a shower curtain and he's like, bath time, and starts singing to her, washing it all off. It's like, oh, this is fantastic. He is so cunning.
He was not stupid. Yeah. And I always loved when he has all of his, he cuts himself and all of his
his
demon
babies
children show up and he starts
kissing him.
Yes. They're so gross.
Which that is also kind of sexy when he cuts his hand and he's like, "All right, I now what is it? I proclaim these grounds cursed or something." It's like, oh, he's getting
Yeah,
real.
yeah. I forgot if he said that or like hollowed but yeah, he was just like, nope, that's it, we're done. No more Mr. Nice Demon.
Mr. Nice Stephen. I think it's yeah, you're right. It's all right. This house is hereby condemned. But oh my gosh. And even that, you get like little rules to the world too, right? Like in this one, because when she goes to like do something like poke his eyes or stab him in the eye, he's like, hey, that only works on low level demons. Sure, Breaker didn't have a chance to tell you that. Who makes these rules?
Oh, there was so much just funny little like, I don't know, man, I don't make them, but I follow them. So here we are.
I don't make them, but I follow them.
I was just looking at like the reviews for it, and they were not good. There was a lot of reviews that are saying like, "Oh, it's just the same one note stuff from Tales from the Crypt. They just rinse and repeat." It was weird. It was just like, what the heck? It's like, what is this? Why are I don't understand, right? Just there were just so many low scores, unfortunately, at the time.
Right. And that's the thing about movies like this, where I feel like as an audience member, or rather as a reviewer, people get caught up in trying to find the sort of analytical, the higher art, get lost in that sort of sauce where it's just everyone tries to be very, very like collegiate and up their asses about their reviews. And don't get me wrong, I used to be that way. But as you watch more and more films and kind of mature, I think you learn to find the joy in a lot of these movies that aren't necessarily critically acclaimed. I mean, hell, I even said it in the very beginning, to anyone listening. I'm not trying to say this is like, oh yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 Andrei Tarkovsky film. You'll find every meaning under the sun and blah, blah, blah. But from a enjoyability standpoint and from a regular just analysis, you don't need to go too deep. Sometimes you just need to take something as it's presented, accept it for what it is, and allow yourself to enjoy that. Because the more you just kind of get up your ass about these sort of analyses, I think you lose the ability to enjoy anything, because suddenly you're looking at everything through such a critical and just like scrutinizing lens, to the point where a lot of things are going to fall through the cracks, I think, especially in the horror genre, because there are just so many movies out there that are made where, yeah, if you want to be super superficial about it, sure, torture porn, gore, surface level themes and whatnot. So I weep for those who can't find the same enjoyability in this film as I did.
I think people don't take new or different very well in general, especially in the horror world, unfortunately. So, examples of that, we talked about this recently in the Carpenter episode. Halloween wasn't well received at first. And then it's like, oh shit, it actually is decent. The same with, I think, like The Fog, right?
And
And
The Thing.
the thing was considered like people considered it a flop. And it's like, really? The Thing? But there are a lot of films out there that at first release, people are like, oh, well, that's not like the other horror films that I've been watching. And we see that even now. Sinners came out, and oh my gosh, some people are like, that is completely iconic and something fresh and new and going to be a part of the masterpiece canon of horror films. And other people are like, that was stupid. I hated it. There's a lot of those bad reviews out there too. And so I think that there's just, one, art is subjective. So people are going to come to this and be like, no, that's too funny. That's too silly. Others are going to take it for what it is, as its own individual, unique experience. And to your point, you know, for a lot of the critics out there, I think that they forget, the film critics specifically, they forget to take this as its own individual, unique experience. And instead they compare and they rip it apart based on other things. And it's like, you just have to take each one as its own film, unless it's related to another film. If it's like, this is part 2, then yeah, okay, you have to take into account that first film. But this is part 1 of 1, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. So then and they introduced something new. They introduced the blood of Jesus in that globe thing, the key, the blood of Jesus being able to block and seal doorways and windowways and entryways. Before it was, demons are exorcised in other ways. In this, it's like, hey, if you just have a little bit of Jesus blood, or the continuation of the demon night blood, which initially came from Jesus, then that also keeps the demons away and can potentially vanquish them, which is used in a later film.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And that the next film we talk about is definitely it probably took things from Demon Knight. And I think a lot of movies there have been a lot of horror movies that have taken things from Demon Knight. And I don't know, I wonder if like people, because Billy Zane, right? We all obviously love what he did in this film. I would be curious to see if somebody who's never seen any of his work like watched it, and if they would have like a different perspective on that.
I mean, I've never
like
seen any of his work, so
no, you haven't.
no. So
really?
that everything that I gave you is from
exactly what you just asked for.
Yeah, what you just asked for. Ask and you shall receive. Yeah, I ended up looking up his filmography afterwards, and I was like, I honestly can't recognize any of these things. He's one of those where I feel like I've seen him in various things growing up, but like ultimately I truly haven't actually watched anything.
Titanic.
This was definitely one of my favorites. I grew up watching Tales from the Crypt, and did I expect it to be scary? No. There were some fucked up episodes from Tales from the Crypt for sure. So I was excited to see the very first movie that they ever, did. And it did not disappoint from the beginning. After the Crypt Keeper introduced the movie, you got "Hey Man, Nice Shot" in the beginning. I'm like, oh, come on. I was caught right there, done. And it just kept getting better and better as it continued.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, yep, let's go. I was there for it.
And this is an artistic film. I think I said this to you, Nazeeh. Like, for being, especially in 1995, and it's in the campy house of Tales from the Crypt, there are some very artistic shots. It starts with, John, to your point, "Hey Man, Nice Shot," but the song paired with those car shots, like the car chase and the interior, it is hella fucking hard to light the interior of a dark car. Mm-hmm. And yet this lights we got on Breaker and on the Collector, like, whoa. Yeah. They were beautiful shots. That was the first thing I thought when I was rewatching it is, man, these are some pretty shots. Mm-hmm. And they continue that. There are a lot of shots throughout that are just very well thought out. The lighting, the contrast, the color, the secondary color choices, the choice to use green lights. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think that even though it's kind of campy because it is in the house of, it is in the crypt, the Crypt Keeper, it is in the collection of the Crypt Keeper. There we go. The scenes are very well constructed. They're thoughtful in how they shot each scene and the color choices they used.
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to note that really, really aided this film, there were a lot of very, very strong, grounded performances that were given by both Breaker, I forget the actors' names, and the actress that played Irene, especially the no nonsense, no frills hotel owner. Honestly, I mean, she's a critically acclaimed actress, and so seeing them just acting their asses off in something that is this campy only helped elevate the hell out of this project ultimately, because they played the straight men, allowing for the comedic elements to truly shine and help you kind of balance out the constant back and forths that was happening. Because if we didn't have those like Oscar ass performances, it might have hit on the hair of this is a little too much. We need to reel it back. But no, like every single person I think was just phenomenal in their roles and allowed for everything to truly come together as a cohesive piece that stands the test of time.
Yeah, this is what separates the difference between Night of Demons and Demon Knight. Haha, I see what I did there. Because Night of Demons had the over the top and the super campy, and there weren't any real grounding performances to balance that out. With Demon Knight, you could go in campy, and sometimes it existed in the same character. Billy Zane as the Collector was campy and charismatic and terrifying. But then you also had, like you said, the grounding characters to match that over the top. Because you think about Roach, his character was so over the top misogynistic that you just love to hate that guy. And you have other caricatures almost of these different people, but then you do have the grounding characters like Irene, and Uncle Willie was more of a caricature, but you have these Deputy Bob was also kind of grounding. And so it just, yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. Those having that balance in the performances allowed, in my opinion, people to be able to be over the top and lean into the absurdity because it had that grounding to keep it tethered enough.
Yeah, and I love Irene. Me and my brother always say this line is, when she's about to die, supper time. It's so great. So great. One of my favorite lines. CCH Pounder is her name.
Yeah, this I feel is one of my top horror movies in general. But like John said, I grew up on Tales from the Crypt. And so for me, having the Crypt Keeper lead us in and having the Crypt Keeper lead us out and have this phenomenal fucking story in between and Billy Zane to carry us through it, like, this is one of my top horror films in general, not just demons.
No, I agree. This was, I mean, yeah, it's one of my favorites that I've seen throughout this entire journey so far. And not even just this journey, but just in all of my movie viewing. This is one of those that I could see actively putting on and revisiting, and just my feel good revisit of the Halloween season.
You know what it is for me? It's kind of like I relate everything to food, and Demon Night is like that pizza, right? Like you always love pizza. This is your pizza, right? Like sometimes I feel in the mood for like sushi, which is Hellraiser, but like Demon Night is like something I could eat every single week if I wanted to, right?
Yes. Yes, you could consume it anytime.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene from the movie? Because there are so many fun scenes in this movie. Is there one specific scene that you're like, this is my favorite? Or top three, if you have a hard time choosing.
I definitely have a hard time choosing. I love the ending sequence with the chase with Geraldine and the dance, the shower, trying to rinse the blood off of her. That entire thing, because that's when you start to see the like angry side of the Collector and the frustration and just let's get this shit over with. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be mean, Like, I still love you, baby.
I still love it. I still you.
Do you think you could find it in your heart to me?
That is one of my top three scenes, by the way. Just that entire, he's trying to profess his love to her, and it's like, you don't fucking love her.
Yep. It's you
can't even say it.
You mentioned this earlier with regard to how he was trying to tempt every person and how he fucked up, missed the mark entirely on her. When, like, if he just didn't unveil it to show the Breaker's like dead body being defiled and whatnot, I was like, you might have had a chance. You were kind of speaking her language a little bit. And then why'd you show her a dead body, brother? Like, what are we doing? That's not how you woo a lady. The hell?
But she's a demon knight. She is the chosen one, so she is not.
She wouldn't
going
have
to.
broken.
Yep.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure, but
You could be tempted and still not break. And so he definitely was tempting her, but she didn't break.
yeah. And then for another scene that I liked,
No, not liked. It's your love. Top three.
Top three. Sorry, my loved is Irene and her arm getting
On a plate.
oh man, that was just brutal. That was not something I was expecting to see. And to have that happen, and then to have it being brought back when the collector's coming in and is just like, hey, finger sandwich, like and having that sort of comedic play relating back to the arm. It was just one of those like really visceral moments, and honestly, any scene that had Irene, I really loved her. I think she truly was my favorite character throughout, aside from the collector, of course. But she is just a joy to watch, and she, I think, happens to have the ability to steal the scene when she is in it, when she's given like ample lines, of course. And then, I'll need to think about the third.
It can be your top two.
Okay, we'll take top two. Top two. There
Top
you
two.
I'll add one. I'll throw it in there. I loved the scene with Roach when Roach is giving him the key and everything. And he's like,
Oh
yeah,
my
you're
God,
good.
yes.
You're not
Have
that
a nice
bad.
day. Oh, by the way,
I lied.
I lied.
Oh, I love when he's like because he as Roach is like walking down, he's like Violos Dios, and he's like Violos Diablos.
Yeah.
I do love how quick he shifted though. When he's like, hey, Roach, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I lied. Oh, he gotcha. Breaker warned him.
You did?
Joan?
Whole damn movie. I don't have a favorite scene. Like, it's the whole thing for me.
I do think for me, my favorite scene is when he is trying to profess his love and he can't even say it. Like, he's so obviously full of shit. And it's just, and then he's like, oh, fuck this. Like, he's trying, and then he's like, fuck it. Moving on. But I do also like that the movie title, because we oftentimes don't get the title, right, of the horror movies in the horror, and he actually slips it in. So it's the collector himself that uses the word demon knight when he says, wow, I'll be the first person to bring a demon knight over. And it's like, oh, he said it.
It reminds me of Family Guy. Peter's watching some show or something. He's like, oh, he said it. Because it's the name of the show. I'm like, oh, he said
Exactly. He said it. He said it.
Yeah, I always go back to because I feel like the constant joke is Will Smith being like, you telling me with some kind of Suicide Squad? It's like, that's the finger point of the TV. We did the thing.
We did the thing. Exactly. And so having him say it so casually, like, well, none of us have ever brought a demon knight over. I'm like, he did it. He said it.
We did it.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, Breaker never references what they are. It's just, we are continuing the helm to keep these safe. And then it's like, shit, 6 have been found. You guys should get some more demon knights out there to like take those 6 back, because if you're relying on just this one to stay safe, y'all are fucked. But, makes you wonder where else they are, because I think the implication is it spread throughout the universe, so other planets, that implication that it's another ecosystems. And it's just like, and you're relying on Earth to keep the last one safe. You fucked.
Truly.
Yeah, they got to make another one where the demon knight loses, I guess, huh? Or can they make another one? Would you watch it?
I'd like to see a continuation where they actually are trying to get the other ones back.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Be a lot easier if you carried the blood in more than just one vial.
Right, spread that. And that's what I was wondering. Why didn't Geraldine she works there, get like a gallon jug, empty that shit out, and just empty Breaker. Let's just start harvesting this so you have backups.
No, truly, I agree. It's like, come on, you're just gonna leave your only supply. You're gonna make this last for the
However
potential
long.
of several lifetimes.
But would it work because he puts his blood in it? Would it work if she did like a blood withdrawal? Like, you do blood donations. Can she just get some removed and put her own in there? Would that work? Or is it only if they're dying? Because they're like a sacrifice.
Only if they're dying.
Who makes these rules? Me channeling my inner collector.
Great movie.
Billy Zane definitely made that movie.
Yeah.
Which then brings us to 2018, The Nun.
The
Nun.
Nun.
The Nun. A modern demon film.
So, the interesting thing about this film for me is that I have not seen any of the films in the Conjuring universe aside from the final film in the Conjuring universe.
The last rites.
The final. Now, admittedly, this was sort of standalone. Like, it has like the thing and like, it's the setup in the beginning and then the callback at the very end with the lecture. So I didn't have to piece anything together. I was able to just, do a little bit of trimming, appreciate, oh yeah, this is all tied together, but this is the movie that we're watching. I have mixed feelings about this one. It is one of those movies where I felt I've way further enjoyed the second half than the first half, because the second half, they did a lot of really, really, really cool things in terms of the various just the shots and the way they were coming at the protagonists with the nuns, the faceless nuns, the bagged nuns, the all the special effects that they used and whatnot. Meanwhile, in the beginning, it was, we're kind of like setting up the world. And of course, that's what you do in a movie. You use the first half to set it up. But I guess I just didn't realize that there were going to be little points where we're introduced to this just sort of condemned, hollowed church that is overrun by just demonic forces, and it's Valak, right? That was the name. And this, you take one look from the outside and you're like, oh, that is not a holy place. I'm not stepping foot in here. And having all of that being brought in, and then suddenly there were like little inserts of comedy that sort of, I don't know, it was welcome, but it threw me off in terms of the tonality of the movie at some parts, where I wasn't sure whether it was like fully taking itself seriously, or if it was kind of self-aware. But overall, like, I did enjoy the movie. I thought the performances were strong, and it very much so, like all of the other religious themed movies, we have this constant plight, holy versus unholy, the going through time and showing that this is an eternal struggle, the idea of faith and wavering faith, as you see with Father Burke with the death of Daniel, and how he kind of is shaken by this experience, whether, he says it himself, maybe I was too eager when trying to help him. He didn't necessarily have as strong as I don't know if I believe in this sort of thing as you do in a few of the others, like Stigmata or in The Exorcist. But it was a touch there. It wasn't like the overarching. For the most part, all the religious folks were very much still religious, still believed. And I do like that with, oh my God, what's her name? Sister Irene? Yes, Irene. She
was it Sister Irene? Yeah.
When we're first
Did you say
introduced,
another Irene?
well, because Irene was in the last movie.
Yeah.
Demon Knight.
Yes, Sister Irene.
I do like that it presented and much like these other movies as well, that religion and science aren't necessarily at odds against each other. You can have them both side by side. When she's talking about the existence of dinosaurs and how, well, do you believe in koalas and penguins? Well, they're not mentioned in the Bible, but they're here with us right now, so why can't there be dinosaurs? God has allowed us the ability to question and to ask insight into his creations and wonder. We're not just meant to fully blind faith entirely. Like, questioning is welcomed, and I think that is an important theme that gets brought up in some of these either religious or demonic related films, that it's important to get to the masses, because of course, in today's day and age, we have a lot of very just blind faith. This is what it says, this is this, with no sort of budging or accommodation. So I did like that theme that was brought forth. Just, it's okay to question. It does not mean that you're godless, and it doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. You can question the creation. It's fine. I'm trying to think. Oh, yes. The idea of a person being more attuned to the divine, to being receptive as a vessel for God and for visions, as we saw with, Sister Irene. From out childhood onwards, she had visions. Mary points the way, and showing that she has a much closer connection to religion than what some other people, in the world are. And there's a reason why she was chosen to accompany Father Burke on this mission to investigate this place, and not just any other person, especially since she didn't even have her vows at this point. This happened to be that the Vatican knew her history, despite Father Burke not. And yeah, it was good. It was fun. I found myself being pissed off half the time, because it's one of those where I feel like the demon plays with its food too much. Like when Father Burke gets buried alive and the bells are all ringing and whatnot, in my head I'm like, you could have just snipped that bell and he would have just been dead.
That was such a fun scene.
But it was a great scene. It was fantastic. And this movie had something that you can point to, at least the Demon Knight and the Night of the Demons, that it grabbed from little bits of inspiration, whether it was like concepts or even just lines. In Night of the Demons with Preacher Boy, there was a point where he had mentioned, or I believe, he had mentioned, oh, maybe we should say a prayer. And Judy was just like, no, with no time for prayer. Now is the time for action. And Father Burke did the exact same line at the end when Frenchie was like, hey, before we go and tackle this final fight, do we have time for a prayer? And seeing the tombstone, here lies Father Burke. I feel like a lot of these films, and I believe this one was in Night of the Demons as well, where it was like, here was the tombstone. They just finished killing someone, and suddenly here lies so and so. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Here we are. So like, little tiny homages, I feel, that are built in. But yeah, I think toward the ending, when you come to find out that no one has truly existed in this convent, these are all sort of visions here to aid the protagonists, and the spiritually inclined coming in to help fight against Phallic, and the choices in shots when they're in the catacombs, when they're coming through, and like I mentioned earlier, the bagged nuns, the faceless nuns in the catacombs, and these sort of like choices where it's like, oh, it's not just about having a scary face and a single kind of image as we do with the nun, but there are other ways to evoke a sense of dread and fear, and this sort of just fright that comes into the audience. What do you all think?
I really wanted to like this movie. Like the first time I saw it, I didn't like it, I watched it again and I found things that I liked about it, um, which made me, kind of meet it halfway. Like it is probably maybe the third or fourth on the list of these movies for me. I mean, I do like the Conjuring movies, but I like them more than I like this one. Um, but I do like. I mean, it is cool that Thaisa Farmiga, they brought her in. It's just, it's the sister from the Conjuring movies, right? Vera, and so that's cool. It's kind of a fun little thing there. But for me, I think like you had mentioned the scene where he's buried alive in the bell, like that for me was one of my favorite scenes because it was real. There was real stakes, and some of the scenes were like you said, it was like playing with his food, but it was like jump scare and then it was gone. Like I for me, it's one of those tricks that I just really don't like when they do it too many times. Whenever they're like, "Oh yeah, this is a crazy situation that's happening." Oh wait, nope, it was a hallucination. It's like, ah, I mean, I get it. That's like the demon. I guess it's the demon way, but you do it too many times, you just I don't know, I kind of it lost me a little bit with that because then I'm like, well, what's real, what's not real, what's the stakes here? And I mean, maybe that's why people like it because you don't know what's real and what's not real, but it just is too many times for me for that.
I agree with you on that.
I love this movie. I stand by this movie because I think that the hallucination scenes served a purpose and they weren't all apples to apples. Like one hallucination scene is not the same as another. So, for example, Father Burke seeing the little boy and following him and ending up like in the graveyard. That was a misdirection to get him isolated away. And it's using his guilt, the image of his guilt, that little boy that died during the
Hmm.
exorcism. So that is one example of a hallucination where it's the guilt that he carries, that he's following, because that's the vulnerable point for Father Burke, to then put him in that real situation, that dangerous situation. For Frenchie, being in the cemetery, and that was just hilarious, taking that big cross with him. um, I do
Yes.
feel that was it had to be bigger, it had to be meaner, it had to be scarier because he's not as scared. He's not as religious. He's not as buying into that. So the demon has to come in hard to terrify him. Because what we really have to do is go back to our roots. What are the stages of demonic possession? The demon can't just come in. So if it really is no hallucinations, just real world stuff, that's not demonic possession. That's not following the true stages of demonic possession. It's isolation, it's oppression, it's suppression, it's all of those things. I'm getting it out of order. John, you know him better. Uh, but
You were pretty close though.
I'm going to look it up. Stages, you know it. What are they?
Isn't it depression first? I
I'm
believe it
looking
is.
because it's like 4 stages. It's infestation, oppression, obsession, and
And
then
possession.
possession.
Yep, that's it.
So for me, all of these hallucinations are actually serving a purpose and they're all different. It's not the same, each one is the same thing. And so to have
Sure.
a full demonic possession really occurring, I feel like they do have to take place. These people do have to be isolated away from each other. They have to know what's not real, what is real, because you do have to confuse them in order to possess them. You do have to break them down. And so, Father Burke, it's okay, let me get to you through your guilt of this little boy, and then I'm going to bury you alive. And then through Sister Irene, what's interesting is her hallucinations really aren't equal. She's seeing the nuns and she's experiencing all of these things. But realistically, when she's praying with the nuns, to me, that's her gift helping her. They're all praying and the demons attacking her, but they're all praying with her. So I actually feel that the nuns in that scene, when they're being all attacked and like they're being broken apart, I actually think that's like the spirits of the nuns with her and her gift protecting her and praying with her as it's whipping her, as it's trying to break her down. So to me, that was a very powerful scene, because that is for me a full manifestation of her gift. And it manifested as the nuns. They're praying with her, they're trying to help her, and they're dying for her, essentially, as the demons coming in and whipping her and scarring her. So I don't know. I do like this movie a lot, because I felt this is the true isolation, right? You are in true isolation, and it's isolating each and every one of them to try and possess one of them. Now, ultimately, it wants Sister Irene, right? Because she has gifts. But it's like, beggars can't be choosy. We'll take what we can get. If I could take all three of you, maybe it can, right? We don't know. We saw Night of the Demons. So Valak is strong. And I don't know. I really do enjoy this film. And as Nazeeh hinted to, we have just straight Demon Night. Literally. In Demon Night, they're called Demon Knights. In this one, it was the Christian Knights, Knights, that used Jesus' blood to literally seal in the demons. And what does the blood do in Demon Night? It seals out the demons. So it's like, all right, I see what you guys were watching. And that's the same thing that was used. But it was a little too close to home, in my opinion. You have Geraldine takes the blood into her mouth, spits it at the demon, and what happens in this one?
100% same thing.
Yep. Sister Irene takes it in her mouth and spits it at Valak. And I'm like, come the fuck on. I think it is a beautiful film. I think it is a slow burn film. I think the camera angles and the choices that they use for the subtle sound of Valak, that is absolutely disorienting. They use tones that are disorienting, and they use camera shots and camera angle switch ups that are absolutely disorienting and leaves you unsettled. And I love that. I love when a filmmaker uses camera and sound and color to fuck with your orientation. You can be sitting on your ass on a couch and feel completely discombobulated, like the earth around you is vibrating, because this is just so disorienting. And I love when they do that, especially when it comes to demon films, because it really does put you in the position of your protagonist, which, by the way, Thaisa Farmiga is absolutely beautiful to watch. Her face is compelling. Her acting ability is compelling. Like, I cannot take my eyes off of her when she is in a scene.
Yeah, she does a great job. She's great in everything that she's in. I'm trying to
Both Farmiga sisters are just...
Yeah, it's both of them. They're great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You see the terror for sure in their faces.
Yeah.
They're amazing. Like, just their ability to emote such small, subtle emotional shifts. Fucking love them.
Absolutely.
I would like to bring up this. It is by complete happenstance that there was a castle introduced to us in the Czech Republic by a guest who had visited this castle. And she was telling us about the history of this castle. And as I was listening to her tell us about the history of this castle, this is a podcast guest we had on, Miss C.L. Thomas, I was like, I know that story. And so I did a little bit of research. If you research Huska Castle in the Czech Republic, and you compare it to the storyline of the Abbey in The Nun, they are pretty fucking close. To the point where I'm like, is this inspiration, or is this you just straight fucking took the story and threw it into the Conjuring universe? I invite you to look up Huska Castle, but ultimately it's a castle built over Hell's Gate to trap demons, and there were soldiers that had rooted in there to try and bring demons up through that Hell's Gate. And folklore is that it was built in the 13th century, and they built on top of it to try and seal the portal to hell closed. So again, you read the history, and obviously it's not the exact same. There's not some abbey and like this nun demon. However, there's a lot of the storyline that it's like, ooh, well, that's super similar. So it was built in the 13th century over a deep bottomless pit, believed to be a gateway to hell. Its purpose wasn't defense, but to trap demons from escaping the chasm. And they built a chapel over the hole. What does this sound like? To try and seal that portal to hell. Later occupants that included Nazis started performing occult experiments to try and bring up demons. What's that sound like? So,
Interesting.
just saying, Huska Castle is very similar. And like I said, to the point where when she was telling us about this castle, just like, I visited this place and telling us about the history of it, I'm like, I know this story.
the dots are connecting.
Yeah. So, and that might get me in trouble at some point because people are going to be like, what are you saying? What are you accusing? And it's like, nothing. I'm just putting some dots out there. You connect whatever you connect.
Well, it gives some realism to it, I guess, right?
Now, if we hear about a nun that was there, no, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Yeah, the history behind that castle. I know it's like a tangent here and we're going on 2 hours, but the history of that castle is actually really compelling. And what she told us about her visit there is very similar to kind of what we see in The Nun. Not saying she took her story from that, but what she explained when she got onto the land around the castle and like the disorientation she felt and how the town really just tries to kind of stay away from it a bit. It's like, ooh, so this is like a real place.
Road trip.
I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but she said that they hung like a wooden cross over the pit itself, right? And when
Yes.
she was there, it just started swinging.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, hell no. No, 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 no.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. When Father Burke and Sister Irene were like, we're gonna spend a couple nights here, even though we just witnessed quite literal, ridiculous, evil feeling shit. And oh, by the way, there's a headless Jesus in front of us, but that's okay. We'll spend a couple of nights. Nah, my ass would have been out there with Frenchie. We would have walked. We would have gone.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna catch me there.
Catch a case of these hands. I will not. But yeah, I definitely love the roster of films that we had. Is it the full scope of is it the full scope of what the subgenre of demonic horror can be? No, I think there's definitely more we could slip in there. But given that we're doing an episode on it, I didn't want to overload and then make us be on here for 4 hours. So I'm like, let's do 4 films. Let's see what happens. Some of our heavy hitters. Obviously, there was a thought process behind this, comparing and how there's similarities in some of these and how some maybe might have borrowed from others.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was an amazing watch. I mean, they've all been amazing watches, and just kind of, again, becoming more cultured with each passing episode that we do. And it's nice being able to fill these gaps with not only the things that I've very clearly heard of, such as Hellraiser, but also like I've never heard of, Demon Knight or Night of the Demons. Like those are not things that have ever crossed my mind or like my just me.
And for me, when it comes to demon films, I actually put them in their own category. I don't put them in with possession films because a film centered around an individual who is already possessed to me is very different than a person who is experiencing demonic presences and demonic attacks. So, no, that's just me. I am not the end all be all of like horror fans. And that's at the end of the day, that's all I am, is a horror fan. I'm not an expert, but I actually kind of separate them out. So for me, when I say let's do Dias for Demons and have a night of demons, see what I did there? I definitely was trying to make sure we chose films that were not about the possessed individuals. Did people get possessed? Absolutely. But really, it's about the demonic attacks and the demonic presences emerging. I don't know. How do you guys feel, John?
I agree with you. It's definitely a different subgenre, I guess. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with you. And I think that these were, despite my not liking Night of the Demons, I think these were 4 very good ones to, do that with. So,
Yeah, they all offer something a little bit different, right? So there's some more comedy in one. There's more that are like straight, and some of them use CGI. Some of them use practical effects. Some of them, just it's nice to compare from different. It's like a same subgenre from different times, and just to see how it like changed over the years. That was another thing that I thought was pretty interesting going through these. So yeah, like the Nun feels very different, even though there's a lot of the same things.
It's a pretty film.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I hope you guys had fun doing D is for Demons.
I had an absolute blast, as always. I love everything that you all provide to me and tell me to do. And, as well, very clearly, I am willing to jump in head first. And it's for me, it's not even just a matter of like watching these films. Like I said, I take notes, I sit there and I try to do some research on them as well and whatnot. Like this really is a cinematic journey. And so, yeah, no, I've enjoyed every single one of them. This one is no exception.
Thank you for letting us take up your time with these because, I mean, it's not just being on the episode with us, right? You are actually taking time outside of this to watch these films at least twice. And so I really appreciate that you're willing to entertain this with us and be on this journey with us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm here for a good time and a long time.
Yes, a very long time. Do you have any projects that you want to shout out to, Nazeeh?
The only project that I have to shout out is, if you haven't already and you are here listening because I happen to be a guest and you are a fan of mine, check out the 3Haunted podcast. They do fantastic episodes on varying topics regarding horror, supernatural, and all things around and in between. Aside from that, yeah, I've got nothing else.
Thank you so much. I adore you, and I love not just that you watch this, but the effort you're in this completely. You are all in. You show up in costumes and you have the best spirit about this. So fucking love you. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you so much for having me. Love you too. And yeah, as long as y'all will have me, I'll watch movies.
BJ John, any final thoughts?
I just love to watch these movies. My favorite thing to do is to relive these movies through new eyes. And I think we're doing that. And I think the listeners enjoy that. And I think that's why they keep coming back, because we can talk all day long about our favorite films. But if we can talk about them through the eyes of somebody who hasn't watched them, that gives it a new perspective and fun. And it's a way for us to be like, we could even argue things if we want, right? Like and it's like, oh, because you haven't liked every one of the films that we've given to you, and that's great. And I think that's part of it. It's a great thing. So
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Doing this journey with you is an honor, really. Like BJ said, always seeing them through different eyes is great. And I know we can't really watch them together as a group, but being able to come back and talk about it and have disagreements with different things, like I did with Hellraiser the first time, and I was like, had to watch it again. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I like it now. So yeah, I was dead set on hating that movie before. So it is fun to be able to hear your opinion and your thoughts on all of these movies. So thank you.
come to daddy.
Oh, whoa. Now, little sneak peek for our upcoming one with Nazeeh. I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to bite the fucking bullet, and we're going to wrap up the season with Z is for Zombies.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yes, we're going to go into Z is for Zombies, and our listeners who have been with us for 6 seasons and those who don't know, I am fucking terrified of zombie movies. Yes, I have a kryptonite when it comes to horror films. I can watch them and appreciate them, and they don't get to me when I'm watching them, but I have the worst fucking nightmares when I watch zombie movies. So, guys, this is for you. I'm going to go in because that is a very important part of the genre.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zombies is very important to the horror genre. So we're going to come up with a list. You know, Romero's going to be on it, probably a few of
Yeah.
his. But yeah, but we're going to throw in a few like Anna the Apocalypse.
I was going to mention that one. We need to throw that one in there. You need to watch it, damn it.
I know I haven't yet. So we're going to do it. We're going to get through it
Sweet.
together. I'm going to be traumatized. You're all going to pay for my therapy, and it's going to be great. All
Fuck
right.
yeah.
BJ Segura, do you want to bring us home?
Yes, I do. Okay, so yeah, again, thank you guys all for listening to us. This was such a fun episode. This is a long episode, but it doesn't feel like it because every film we talk about, we're so passionate to give our perspective, and that's the fun of it. That's why you guys listen. That's why we like to talk about it, because we love the art form, right? So, saying that, thank you all for tuning in to this episode of 3Haunted Podcast with your hosts. I'm BJ Segura.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
I'm John Thomas.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. If you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all our social media. You don't want to miss our amazing guests like Nazeeh.
And ain't nobody like Nazeeh.
Hell no. And if you haven't done so already, I know BJ said that earlier, but please check out 3hauntedpodcast.com. We have all of our past and current season episodes, as well as new guest information and all kinds of awesome fucking merch.
And while you're at it, be sure to check out Nazeeh. All his social medias, keep an eye out what conventions he's going to be at. He's going to be on like a US tour next year. So keep an eye on that. And
Thank you.
because he's just a silly little guy.
I'm just a silly little guy. You know, I'm just making my way through this world.
Until next time.
Angels to some, demons to others. We provide pleasure, and we provide pain.